Hey guys, welcome to Vinny's Vibe, the place where you can catch the wave. With me today, I have a very special guest. His name is Cameron with the To Do Dudes. Say hello, Cameron.
Hey guys, thanks Vinny for having me on. I'm really excited.
Awesome, awesome. Well, it's a pleasure to have you on, and of course, your company has done a really great job here locally in Flagler County, and you guys have really kind of blown up. Really in Flagler County, it's really cool to see. Can you touch on that just a little bit? Kind of like where you guys are headed. What have you guys been doing of late? What really drove your success to this point?
Yeah, so I'll start out with kind of the beginning. Junior golf is how Eric and I actually met each other. So
Cool.
that's been one of my passions and hobbies throughout my entire life is golf, and my dad kind of got me into that for networking and for the business opportunities later in my life. So that actually kind of the opportunities opened up a lot earlier in my life than I kind of expected they would, but that's how Eric and I became friends, and he started the business in May of 2020 when he was finishing up with high school. He was just helping his grandma out in the backyard.
Interesting. During
And
COVID, it's crazy.
yeah. So, I mean, interesting time for us to get started with everything, especially with the type of service that we do going into people's homes. But, we were able to make it work. And, the idea kind of started from Eric helping out his grandma in the backyard. And she lives on a golf course too. So it's kind of funny how golf kind of ties into the origin of the To Do Dudes so much. But uh, golfers kept coming by and saying, hey, Eric, I could use some help with that at my house. And after the fifth group said the same thing, that kind of sparked the idea. So his uncle was the one who thought of the name, which I think is really clever. It's kind
Where
of
did
a,
he come up with it?
I don't know. I honestly would have to talk to his uncle a little bit more
Yeah.
and kind of get more of that story. But I think it was more like to-do lists and, just young people in the community. It was like the to-do dudes. So it's kind of a tongue twister, and some of our customers do kind of confuse it or mix it up. But I think that's what makes them remember us. So
Yeah, and obviously like the name itself is so directly connected to to like your business. I really think it's really cool, and it's cool how like the family dynamic comes into play. But you played golf in high school. Did you also play in middle school, elementary school? How did that work?
So the first time I touched a golf club, I would have been like 3.5, 4 years old. So it was actually at Epcot, and they had, for whatever
Oh,
reason, they had a little putting green set up. And I don't know, this is the story my parents tell me, but that I picked up a club that was basically twice my size, and I like whacked a random ball, and it like went in a hole. And they were like, "Well, we're gonna get this kid some clubs." So that was kind of the start of my golf journey,
yeah.
and I played quite a bit. I took lessons from like 4 to 6 years old, and then kind of got out of it and did most of like the traditional sports that every kid goes through: soccer, baseball, football. And I would golf
Very
occasionally
fun.
throughout the year, but you know, as I got into high school, that's when I kind of picked it back up.
So did so when you tried all these different sports, right? Because I remember when I was a kid, like the one thing that my mom put me in was like she tried to put me in wrestling. That didn't work out very well for me. Um, but like for me growing up, a lot of it had to do with baseball. Growing up, and obviously that's not really good in golf. A lot of times it seems like a familiar swing, but believe me, it is not. So touch on that a little bit. Those intermediary sports, like what kind of like other than golf, like what kind of like interested you? What interests you now? Yeah.
So I've always been a huge football fan, Florida Gators specifically. So
Ah,
that's just born and raised a Gator fan.
jump on.
Yeah, so go Gators. And football has always been kind of my one of my biggest passions.
Mm,
I love going to the Gator games. I've had season tickets the last few years, so I travel up to Gainesville and try to make it to as many home games as I can.
mm,
But what I really enjoyed was my parents pushed me to try everything, and I think that was great for me. To kind of get the team sports dynamic. That's something that I really miss, honestly.
mm,
And something that the To Do Dudes has kind of brought back a little bit for me is like that team dynamic and the culture and everything, and
mm.
having like-minded people around you. But with I always enjoyed football. That was kind of my primary sport growing up that I played. But then transitioning into golf, it was still a team that we had in high school, but it's much more individual. You're playing your own
Yeah.
game. So it was kind of a good dynamic to have both of those experiences growing up.
Now, coming from like a golfer's perspective, right? So I'm guessing you're also a golf fan, right? Right, right. So tell me a little bit about like, your favorite player growing up, their demeanor, like what was it about them as a role model that really influenced you to be the person you are today?
Yeah, so great question. Tigers, obviously the easy answer. I think
Right.
everyone kind of, especially my age, I think I'm a little bit on the younger side of
Mhm.
like growing up getting to watch Tiger in his prime. But I got to see that a little bit, and I have actually gotten to see him play in person a few times.
That must have been cool.
Yeah, at the Masters one in 2019 when he won, actually, I was
No
there. So
way.
I wasn't there on Sunday, but I was there on Wednesday for the practice round. So I got to see him, that week, and it was just he's just really locked in. Like that's something that I always, he just has a different like presence when you see him compared to the other,
Mhm.
professional golfers on tour. That's something that I've always noticed when I see him is he's just so locked in, all the fans are trying to get his attention and everything, and it's
Right.
just he doesn't hear them, he doesn't see them. So that's something I've always, kind of someone I've always looked up to. But Jordan Spieth would probably be
Mm,
the one for me that was kind of more in my era of when I was really growing up when he
right.
won the 2015 Masters. Like, that was a really cool moment for
But
me.
sometimes you look at it from the perspective of like different golfers and different mentalities. And, Jordan Spieth, I mean, if you've gotten the chance to see this guy play, he is as animated as anybody out there on a golf course, but somehow, he's had a few years where he's kind of had some really down, periods of time, a couple of injuries. Just had that wrist, I believe it was the wrist surgery that happened in the off season. But you talk about the dynamics of what it takes to be successful, right? And they both had two different personalities. One's completely locked in, waits until the last minute, and then the other one, with the emotion kicking in, and then one just has emotion through one part of the course to the other. Tell me a little bit about the qualities um, that you now have acquired using the your business as kind of like that success point in what you do.
Can you elaborate on what your question is there?
Yeah. So like their behaviors, how they carried themselves, their those kind of things that you watched, as a young as a well, I mean, you're still young, obviously, but that's helped you to be successful at such a young age.
Yeah, so for Jordan, I think his creativity is something on
Mm-hmm.
the course. Like you'll see, I love watching the conversations he has with his caddy, Michael Greller, and like them talking through the shots. And
Yeah.
he's got such a creative mind and like just sees shots differently than anyone else. And I think that that's something that I try to bring into the business. I think that Eric and I are, we kind of have like a yin and yang. We're kind of in certain aspects, we're kind of polar opposites of each other. But I
Mm.
think that the balance that that provides for the business, like, he's always told me and pushed me to be creative and kind of bring in those ideas that no one else would have thought of. And that's something that I've always enjoyed, is being able to have that freedom, and ability to kind of join into meetings and kind of just throw random ideas out there. And it's surprising that some of them have stuck and been good implementations for the business.
What has been like one of those implementations, right? Like one of those things that has made a big difference that really sticks with you to this day, like one from those meetings.
Oh, I'm trying to think. You're putting me on the spot here.
Come on, you got this,
Let me
Cameron.
see if I can pull something out of the hat here. But something recently that we implemented was a strike system for the team,
Okay.
and this was just to try to set the expectations and then hold everyone accountable to that. Like
Mm,
we've always had core values, and we've always tried to lead the team a certain way, but we found that we didn't have any structure in place in terms of what are the repercussions if you don't meet those expectations.
mm,
So, we wanted to put something in place that was holding them accountable, but, also, letting them grow within our organization as well. So that
right.
was something that we recently just implemented, and that's been a huge success. And there is also ways for the team members to reduce strikes. So, maybe they do get a strike. There is ways that they can, attending our workshops that we have monthly, or going a full month without a strike. Those are ways that they can, reduce back those strikes that they may have earned.
So using some education to kind of guide them in the
Yep,
right direction.
exactly.
That is very cool. I think that a lot of times, and that's one thing a lot of businesses really that, of course, like we both have probably seen, like they'll have the morals, they have the values, they have the character, but without that accountability factor, the organization of the entity, right? It becomes kind of disarray. You don't know exactly who's producing, who's not producing. You want to make sure that everyone is being held accountable because again, that's I know at least for the company I work for, they do like award ceremonies, which are, really, it really touches on the people that are the top producers. But how do you do that without seeing what they're doing on paper, right?
Right.
So tell me a little bit about what you do now. I know you do a lot with the To Do Dudes. You're doing a lot of work in the community. What is that? What does it look like right now outside of the Do Dudes? Are you doing anything extracurricular, anything that kind of keeps your mind at ease, that kind of motivates you through the day to keep you going and staying successful in your business?
Yeah, so one thing that I like to do is run. So that's been
Mm.
something that I've been trying to get more consistent with. I ended up running 500 miles in 2024. So that was kind of a
Wow.
big accomplishment for me. And I did my first half marathon in August. So
Sweet.
yeah, that was a really fun experience. I used to race more when I was younger,
Mm.
and then I got plantar fasciitis, which kind of made it difficult for me to run for a few years
Yeah.
as I was kind of going through my growth spurts and everything. But past couple years, I've gotten back into running, and I've enjoyed that. But other than that, big hobby for me is skiing.
Mm.
So I've been on 3 ski trips so far in 2025. So
Where's your favorite place to go?
probably Vermont. I've only been on the East Coast, so I'd love to, get out on the West Coast. I've heard it's a completely different, ball game out there.
Salt Lake City out there in Park City, Utah.
Yeah,
That's a good place.
yeah. So I'd love to get out west, but I was just up in Vermont 2 weekends ago and did some skiing with my uncles. So, even being from Florida, it's something that my parents always took me and my sister up and did at least one trip every year. So I've always enjoyed that as kind of my winter sport.
So what is it about I guess touching into the running part of it, right?
Yeah.
Because you do that a lot. What is it about running that really does it for you?
It just gives me time to think. I used to listen to a lot of music and then I kind of transitioned to like podcast or audiobooks while I ran.
Mm.
But recently I've even just been trying to do like no headphones and just kind of give myself time to think.
Mm.
And I have found that that's where I get back from my runs and I'm like, I need to write this down because I'll have like a good idea because it's just, I'm out there and there's no other thoughts in my mind. And it's boring honestly to be running for an hour at a time. So it's like you have to be thinking.
Right.
So that's been something that I've enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of times, like when it comes to the running aspect, because I've seen it myself. I like to ride bikes.
Okay.
So like for me, it's almost like the yin and the yang. You do one or do but either or, it's that same and that's where I can really compare with what you're saying. A lot of your ideas, a lot of things you do, comes from those periods of time where everything is silent almost, and meditation, right? That's a really big thing. Intrapersonal communication. Look that up, fellas. That's not interpersonal communication. Intrapersonal. It's communication with yourself, right? So tell me a little bit about, you know, tell me a little bit about what you have coming up down the pike, what the To Do Dudes have going on, and really, if you want to wrap up, what really success means to you.
Okay. Yeah. So where the To Do Dudes is heading, the past few years, we've really been just trying to figure out the business model and, prepare to start scaling. And that's where
Mm.
we're at in 2025. So
Mm.
we want to double our job count in 2025. And to do that, we're going to have to expand to new areas. So April 1st, we're going to be launching in Daytona Beach. That's
Cool.
really,
Yeah.
really exciting for me
Yeah.
personally because that's where kind of my family was born and raised. Both my parents went to Mainland High School, so I have a lot of family in that area,
Sweet deal.
and they've been really looking forward to our services coming down to be able to help out in that community as well. So that's kind of where we're going, and also in the summertime we're planning to launch down in up in St. Augustine. So gonna go to Daytona first, and then St. Augustine. We'll hire a team up there and start connecting with the neighbors in that community as well.
That's pretty cool. Kind of, where you guys have gone in such a short amount of time. I mean, really, like, a lot of people don't look at 5 years and like it goes by with a blink of an eye, but it's crazy, where you guys have headed through all of this time. You guys are so well known in the community, to expand out here. I mean, it's just really cool to see the growth with such a young group of people. So tell me a little bit about really like for you, what does all of this success mean to you, and what continues to drive you this today
For
these
me,
days?
I just really love helping people out, whether that be the students on our team or the maybe the senior citizen in the community that really doesn't have anyone to go to do simple things around the house. So it's really cool for me to be able to have the opportunity to have that impact on kind of both of those groups. And I really wish that this would have been a job opportunity for me when I was in high school. The flexible hours to work with students' schedules. And, we understand that school is still the priority. And this is a stepping stone for them. They're not going to be, pulling weeds for us or loading U-Hauls for the rest of their life. But I think that there's a lot of valuable skills that we can teach them that they can carry into that next step of their career.
That's pretty cool. I mean, a lot of times, like when people look at, like what kids are doing nowadays, and like, different learning experiences, this is a very big opportunity for a lot of younger kids to not only see what it is to work for a business, but to see what it is to meet the owners, work with the owners, see like what that looks like to own a business.
Right. No,
Pretty
that's
cool.
something that I tell all of our team too, is we are such a small business that they have a voice in where we go. So, if they have, suggestions or feedback for us, we have monthly leadership meetings where we're trying to get feedback from the team and like, hey, where can we, like, how can we make this experience better for you? And that's been something really cool. And, something we're able to pitch to, people when we're onboarding them is like, please speak up if you have any suggestions or, any ways that you think we can improve.
Keep heavily engaged.
You have a voice or a say in that, where if you joined a bigger corporation or something, you're not going to be, able to have that voice.
Right, right, right. Well, Cameron, it has been a pleasure having you on. And this has been a very l- learning experience for me as well. I think there's a lot of opportunity to learn and be educated. And that's a beautiful thing about podcasting. It's a beautiful thing about getting to know people in the neighborhood, and obviously contact the dudes if you need any help. But other than that, Cameron, I just want to say thank you so much for being on. And of course, if you'd like to come on to the show, we'll always be here. We're Vinny's Vibes. Get the chance to catch the wave. We'll see you next time.